and up to a 10 times jump in performance if both Sony and Microsoft do opt to go with an 8-core design like they did with the last generation. AKA, these new CPUs are going to be a huge uplift. This should be a true generational leap. So the current generation of consoles, specifically with the One X and the PS4 Pro, have actually had pretty solid graphics, but they have been severely handicapped by their very weak processors. While traditionally AMD hasn't been all that strong on the power side of things, this time around with their 7nm process as well as the new Zen 2 architecture, it actually looks really promising. Consoles, of course, are by nature limited when it comes to both power as well as thermals. So if you're building yourself a gaming PC, feel free to load up with a ton of fans, a huge power supply, it's really not an issue. But a console has to fit a very small size constraint, and usually these things are not in great environments with lots of airflow, right? I mean, how many consoles are like underneath a stack of books or underneath your TV with almost no airflow? So my best guess for the next generation of consoles is for a CPU to be roughly equivalent to the Ryzen 7 3700X. Now this is an 8-core Zen 2 design, which in its normal clock is around 3.6 gigahertz. Now mind you, that's on the desktop side at 65 watts, so we will likely see a slight underclock to meet the console spec, but even so, something in that neighborhood I think is very, very doable for the PS5 as well as the next Xbox. The next interesting aspect is on the graphics side. So both the Xbox as well as the PlayStation 5 are taking advantage of AMD's Navi GPU architecture. Now this actually is going to ship first in desktop PCs a little bit later this year, but it very much seems like it was designed with consoles in mind, as the chip itself is fairly small, perfect for integration, and an SoC like a console. So the pure performance should be a pretty decent step up over the current generation. However, this is a much more difficult comparison to make. So on the graphics side of things, both Sony and Microsoft are absolutely going to customize their GPUs, so it's not going to be exactly off the shelf. However, based on a slightly conservative estimate, I'm going to say the new generation of consoles should be in the neighborhood of a Radeon RX 5700 as far as graphics go. The graphics side is very much where there's the most room for Sony and Microsoft to play around and make sure they're actually making different consoles. So even though they all have the same building blocks to play with, they can do it in very different ways. For example, Sony might focus on just making a bigger GPU, which is focused on higher resolutions, and Microsoft might focus more on something like higher frame rates or making sure that the ray tracing is of a higher quality. There really are a lot of variables here. However, the important thing to note is that when we do see these differences in the consoles, it is very likely going to come down to things such as the amount of memory as well as the size and the overall layout of these GPUs. Now, like I said, I think I'm being a little bit conservative, assuming that this is going to be similar to a Radeon 5700, which for the record is about on par with an RTX 2060, but we do know for sure there are some major upgrades that go along with this Navi GPU. First of all are the power savings we're getting with the 7nm process, which may or may not actually be even better by the time that these consoles ship next year. We should also be looking at GDDR6 memory. Now this is a decent step up over the last generation, and I estimate that we'll see somewhere between 12 and 16 gigs of the stuff on these new consoles. Now that's important, as again, like that last generation, this should be an APU layout, which means that that memory is shared with both the CPU as well as GPU. There's also support for PCIe 4.0 on board. Now this gives both Sony and Microsoft a ton of extra bandwidth to play with, so some of that will come down to making the graphics a little bit faster, but for the most part this is going to come in handy with the standard SSDs on both of the new consoles. Not only will this cut load time significantly down, but it also enables bigger worlds, and Microsoft has even hinted toward a RAM disk function. So it is confirmed that both of the new consoles will support not only 8K, but 4K at a full 120Hz. And if we take a closer look at the Radeon 5700, that actually completely matches up. So it supports 8K and HDR at a full 60 frames per second, or you can go 4K HDR at that 120Hz. Now this is the first time that we've seen support for such high frame rates in a console, and that could have absolutely huge implications for gaming, assuming that developers actually take advantage of that, instead of aiming for like 30 frames per second like a lot of this generation. Now all that being said, there is the added sort of issue that there, as far as I'm aware of, aren't any 4K 120Hz TVs on the market. But if this means that we get another shiny badge to look for when you're buying your next TV.
Now we're gonna take a look at the inside of Black Ops 5. All right. While I still got a video paused, since I am somewhat of a YouTuber, PS5 gameplay. Black Ops 5. Excuse me. Let's see. I'm gonna go to BO5. I want everybody to witness the new Black Ops 5 gameplay. Excuse me for taking so long. Black Ops 5 gameplay trailer. Here we go. Yes, they do have a new zombies.
I've spent my career answering
Oh, advertisements.
America's middle class getting hollowed out. It's because our government works for the wealthy and the well-connected. I'm Elizabeth Warren. I know what's wrong. I know how to fix it. All you have to get it done.
For like the past X amount of years. Now, before we begin, I just want to invite you guys to let your voice be heard in the comments, okay? Just feel free, just let it all out, whether it's good things or bad things. Just let me know how you feel about the situation. Let me know how you've been feeling about Call of Duty for the last X amount of years, okay? Now, this is all coming from Kotaku, and this is information directly from them, and they are pretty reliable. So this is not just Joe Schmo. This is a very, very reliable source that we're talking about here. So it is most probable that everything that we're going to be talking about here is 100% true. So the article starts off with saying pretty much that a bombshell report has surfaced from Jason, which is part of Kotaku, of the next upcoming Call of Duty for 2020's release. Jason has reported that the current in-development Call of Duty 2020 game is in a mess state, and that Treyarch is taking over the development to bring this Call of Duty, which is going to be Black Ops 5, as a 2020 Call of Duty game. Kotaku states that Activision informed the studios this week of the major change that the company is making to its plans, as Sledgehammer Games and Raven Software were still in development of the 2020 Call of Duty game. Quoted in this article says it is a significant shift for
Sorry about that.
Activision's a massive first-person shooter franchise, which is one of the most lucrative video game series on the planet. Every fall for the last 15 years, Activision has put out a new Call of Duty game supported by a stable of different developers who rotated duties as required. Since 2012, Activision has followed a 3-year cycle to its 3 lead studios, Infinity Ward, Treyarch, and Sledgehammer. So right up to this point in this article, we can easily confirm that we're going to be having a Call of Duty for 2020, which is pretty much inevitable. We already know that. But it's a little weird because the Call of Duty that's going to be coming is Black Ops 5. And we know that that does not belong to Sledgehammer Games, which is supposed to be the studio that's responsible for 2020's Call of Duty. So that means that we're going back to Treyarch in 2020. So that means we're going back to a 2-year developing cycle. I don't know if that's a good thing or I don't know if that's dangerous, but I'm willing to bet that these studios are undergoing massive amounts of pressure. And this article is going to keep giving us information, and this may actually answer questions that we've had for a long time. So we'll keep on going. So Kotaku reports that Sledgehammer Games and Raven Software will serve as a support studio to work with Treyarch on bringing out the 2020 Call of Duty game. Raven Software was actually the lead development studio for 2020's Call of Duty game, with Sledgehammer Games supporting them. Now, Sledgehammer Games and Raven Software have been working on a single-player campaign for their 2020 game, which is set to be in the Cold War, and that is supposed to be the campaign for the new Black Ops game. Now here's the question, why was this a single player being worked on by Sledgehammer Games and Raven, and now it's being ported over to Black Ops 5? Which absolutely makes no sense. That's probably what you're asking yourself. But here's the answer.
Okay, now we're going to go to the new zombies on Black Ops 5. Entire Black Ops 5 leaked, zombies reboot and everything, etc.
Black Ops 5 leaks everywhere. Alright, so welcome back to the 500 IQ department, everybody. Now today, forget Modern Warfare, forget the microtransactions, forget Activision. We're talking Black Ops 5, everybody, and I want to start this video off with all the official and confirmed information. And just know that Treyarch have confirmed that they are working on the next year Call of Duty. And it is absolutely crazy, and we're getting all these leaks, and I do want to say that take all of this as an urban legend. Do not let your dogs out, because obviously Activision is going to get their schlongs involved regardless, and I'm pretty disappointed with Black Ops 4 because of its microtransactions, but I gotta say that this news is pretty exciting, but it's not getting me hyped because I know what Activision is capable of, so don't let your dogs out. And I want to actually start this video off with the official information, and then I'm gonna dive into the leaks and I'll let you know my thoughts. I know I've been seeing a bunch of your guys' comments and tweets, so I got you. Just know I got you, and I want to get right into it. And this news suggests that Zombies is gonna be getting a reboot, and that has me hyped, man. Like, I'm a big Zombies fan. Black Ops 4 has me disappointed, but this news is looking pretty good, and I want to know from you, if you want to see Zombies, drop a like on this video. If you're like, Skizzle, I'm done with Zombies, I don't want to see anything to do with Zombies, drop a dislike. I want to know your opinions. So with that, let's just get right into it. Now, around 2 weeks ago, Kotaku reported the fact that Treyarch is working on Black Ops 5 for Call of Duty 2020, and guess what? 2 days ago, Treyarch confirmed that they're looking for people, and the jobs are open, and they are working on Call of Duty 2020. And now a homie who's living life in the Six by the name of the Gaming Revolution, he actually reported that Black Ops 5 is real and it's gonna be a reboot, and I really
Okay,
trust
so
it. Obviously,
how old is this video? This video right here was posted 4 months ago, over 11,000 views. Skizzle X. So yeah. So I had to just put that out there. So anyways, like I was saying, y'all know the new Call of Duty Black Ops 5 is coming out pretty soon. Don't know exactly what month. I just wanted to put that out since I'm a YouTuber. So hey, this man right here, High Quad Scope, aka MSQS, and I'll holler at y'all later.